All right, we are live. Welcome to OnSet. I am Daniel Norton. I've got Cadence here today, and on the mighty mix, Seth. He's got like the one headphone thing going on.
Not waste time.
Wasted time. We started a little early because we're very excited. So we're going to get into kind of a type of beauty photography. There's lots of different ways that we can shoot beauty type shots. It's going to kind of be like more of a beauty portrait. Real simple. We're going to kind of work our way through it. If you've got questions throughout the thing, we can obviously answer them, and be sure to ask, of course. And maybe we'll try some stuff if we have some time at the end. But the idea here is we're going to use light to shape the face, and then we're going to kind of clean it up. That's the key to beauty stuff, is we want to keep it as fresh as possible, because even though it's going to be retouched, obviously, for beauty stuff, although never with Cadence, no. Even if you're shooting beauty for commercial purposes, you're going to want to retouch it, but that doesn't mean that you just ignore everything, right? You just think about what you need to get right, if you will, and then don't worry about the rest. That kind of thing. So we're going to get as close as possible to perfect. We want the light to look the way we want. We don't want to have to do all kinds of dodging and burning and adding things and changing color and stuff. So we want to make sure all that's perfect, right? The rest of it, though, if there's like a single blemish, because I see people talk about that a lot. They talk about, what if they have a pimple? If they have one pimple on their face, to change your entire setup for one pimple is silly. That can be retouched, right? But when you're talking about coming in and having to like fake the light because you shot it really flat and boring, that's not what we want to do. We want to create some interesting light, some shadow, some texture, and then anything else we'll take care of. I just realized too that I'm gonna have to run off the set for a second. Seth's gonna get mad. He's gonna be, all right, I'll be right back. So I'm going over here. He left. I have to get my color thing. So, no, I got the. I don't know where the chipboard went. Yeah, I don't know where the chipboard went. Okay. So one thing we're gonna work with a little bit here. Oh wow, this one's pretty bad. Okay. So we might actually use this one because this one's old. You need to get new ones. We are gonna try to get a custom white balance. We don't always do that when we do these, right? And people ask me a lot about white balance. It really depends on what you're doing, right? You want the images to look good, obviously, but if you're doing something that is precise with color, like you might do in beauty, then you're gonna wanna do a custom white balance. So we'll talk about doing that. I may not actually use the custom one because this is an old color chart, so we'll see what happens. It's probably gonna make her very blue because it's very warm. So that could be fun too. We could do Smurfs. All right, so let's get to it. Let's do this. So as usual, I will start off by saying the equipment I'm using, and then I'll probably forget and stop saying it. So if I use something, you want to know what it is, go ahead and ask. I'm just going to shoot with a Nikon Z6 II 85mm lens. You can shoot with longer lenses, like a 105 is a really good lens for this, or if you're using the 70-200, you might want to throw like 135. I don't like to get too far back with the beauty stuff because you've got this, we've done videos about this, you've got this idea that the closer you are to somebody, kind of the more distorted things start to pull forward, right? So you get like the nose gets stretched out, the ears get stretched out. The further back you are, the more compressed it is. But if you go back too far, it starts to look unnatural. So I tend to want to be relatively close. So we're like 6 feet apart. That's probably pretty good. You can go a little bit further back. I don't want to stand in the other room. At least not right now. Sometimes I want to stand in the other room, but not today. So I get the 85 on here.
When he starts standing in the other room.
I'm going to be in the other room later. So I'm using Profoto Flash. I'm just going to use B10s. It really depends on what you're doing. Obviously, you can use some more powerful flashes. These are 250 watt-seconds a piece. That should be fine. We're going to keep the flash real close, real simple. I'm just going to use a very plain background. This is just Fashion Gray from Savage. It's a 4-foot roll. We don't need to go crazy. If you were doing something for a commercial purpose, they might want to drop in a background, or there might be a set back there. There could be any number of things. So gray paper is just a good way to just block out the background, essentially, for this image. We might mess around with it a little bit as we get going, but we're going to focus on the light on Cadence for this.
What's the difference in the visual target aging? Gray is gray, or 18% gray fades, or what?
Okay, so the difference between what happens with the digital target, what happens when it ages, right? That's what I was saying. Well, just like anything, well, not anything, but just like your soft boxes or anything that's just like plastic material, whatever, it starts to get yellow as it gets older. So obviously, what makes a digital target, you do see this one is white, gray, and black, but I heard you say 18% gray, so I'm going to talk about that for a second. When people throw out 18% gray, that has to do with exposure. When you're talking about a gray card for white balance, it needs to be neutral. The actual exposure of the 18% is not, I think in this case it is actually 18%, but it doesn't need to be 18% for white balance, it needs to be neutral. So if my digital target is getting warm because it's getting older, when I take an exposure off of it and it thinks that warm gray is gray, it's going to adjust my white balance differently than it would if my gray was neutral. They actually make warm and cool cards that you see a lot of video guys will use because clearly they aren't going to do a lot of Photoshop if they're shooting like direct, they don't do no Photoshop for video. If they're not going to color grade, right? You can actually get warm cards and cool cards. So if you are somebody that shoots JPEGs, you want to do that kind of adjustment, you can do that. I know you're saying you could probably just make an adjustment in the camera. Of course you can, but the advantage of using a target or a warm card or a cool card is that it's consistent. So you can always do it. So yeah, when it gets older, it gets warmer. So if it sees the scene as warmer than it is, it's gonna adjust the other way and probably make her cooler than she should be. That's the reason why.
Make me cool.
She'll make her cool. Yeah. All right. So let's do. Oh, this is Seth's stand, by the way. You can see his sticker on here.
And you put the wrong arm on it, thanks.
Yeah, I get the silver arm on there. I like to mix it up a little bit. The BD arm. That's Brett's arm. Thanks, Brett. So what we're going to do is we're going to establish our settings on our camera first. Now, we're in a space, it's lit because clearly we're streaming, so we need to have enough light in here. But I want to set my camera in a way that none of the light in the space affects my shot. Effectively, when I make an exposure of cadence, that we get a black frame, right? There's no exposure, effectively. And we're going to do that by setting our ISO at its lowest within the normal range, which is 100 in this camera. We're going to set our shutter speed at the sync speed, which is 200, the maximum sync speed, I should say. And then we're going to set our aperture based on, make sure that we're closed down enough to get rid of the light in the space, but also closed down to get enough depth of field, because in a beauty shot, no matter what you might see on Instagram, you typically don't want incredibly shallow depth of field because you're typically in a beauty shot showing hair or skin or whatever. So we want to have a little bit of depth of field. So 5.6, f8, something like that for this setup should be good. If you want to really set shallow depth of field for your style or whatever, that's also fine, obviously. But
Do you want to do a quick retouching? Like they're asking how much retouching do you normally
yeah, we'll jump in and do a quick little touch up if we need to. Sure, why not? We'll do that.
do? You have like a line that you don't draw, like what's your...
Yeah, I mean, so retouching is typically you're going to want to remove things that are not something that is there permanently, right? So if there's a pimple, you know, that's what you would retouch out. In a portrait, I don't tend to soften the skin. So if somebody has wrinkles or something, for instance, which Cadence does not because she is perfect, but let's say that she did. I wouldn't remove that, but obviously that's a discussion you have with your client. If somebody doesn't want to show the wrinkles in their skin, you can light them to make that go away, and we'll work on that a little bit here. So you want to try to get that with the lighting as much as possible. If she was wearing like lipstick or something and it smudged or something, you'd retouch that off. Yeah, stuff like that. I wouldn't take off things like freckles. Those are permanent. Most people want those in their shot. Make sure you discuss that with your client, obviously. Flyaway hairs are another thing that you might retouch out. But if you can see it in the camera, take the time to try to fix it on the spot. That's generally my advice in life. But yeah, that's... And in fact, a lot of what you would be able to do or need to do in this shot, we can actually do in Capture One. There are some tools in there. They're not the same as like you'd get in Photoshop, like they're not as powerful, but you can do quick blemish removal and stuff like that. So if we see anything, we'll mess with it. All right, so first I'm gonna take a shot. I am at 200th of a second, 5.6, 100 ISO. I'm going to turn off my flash. And I can see, because I'm using a mirrorless camera, that it's going to be dark. I can already tell that. But let's do it so you guys can see. And also we want to know how dark it is. So I'm on this frame I just made now. It is dark. If I go over to my exposure slider and drag it over, I can see how underexposed I am. I want to be about 2 stops. Yeah, I can start to see her come up. You know, I'm like 2.5 stops, almost 3 stops underexposed. So that's actually really good. Why that much? Because this is my baseline. If I need to raise things up, it's like my shadow point, right? So if I want to raise something up in post or I need to make some adjustments, I have some room to move. If I'm only 1 stop underexposed, then I start raising my exposure or doing some adjustments to my midtones or shadows. I might actually pick up some of the room light, which we don't want because these are the least expensive LED bulbs I could possibly buy at the hardware store. So, all right.
I love that you admitted that.
Yes, of course. All right.
So, have you heavy freezes up
Frequency separation, no. Yeah, dodging and burning, it's not something I prefer. See, to me, am I in the camera, right? The dodging and burning is interesting. I see people do a lot of that and stuff. I find that if you light somebody the way you want them to be lit, you won't need to do that. There might be times where you can't do that for some reason, and then obviously that can help. Frequency separation, I don't do any of that.
Also, you don't like the dodge and burn post to make it look unnatural.
Right. A lot of times when people do that and they add fake light, unless you're doing that on purpose, like you might be creating some kind of effect where you want it to look unnatural, but I don't want it to look unnatural. Cadence doesn't want to look unnatural. No. Seth doesn't want to look unnatural. All right, so now we're set up. I've had this question before, so I'll just put it out there. If you might be able to tell, I can't tell if you can tell on the cameras. I can now see what she looks like. I'm not using anything yet. So I can now see to compose and everything because I have my camera set that way. So if you're using a mirrorless camera and you're looking through it, it's dark so you can see there's no exposure in the room, then you want to set the camera, switch the mode, whatever you do. In this camera, if you just simply put the flash on top, it does it. Now I can see. This is not my exposure, so if you're looking at the back of my screen, the exposure is the dark, which I showed you. But now let's bring a flash in. When we want to do a beauty shot, typically, especially for a female subject, you want to kind of create a nice shape and shadow to the face so we can highlight the shape of it, but we don't want to have a lot of shadow because the shadow will, in fact, make things like wrinkles and pimples and stuff show up more. So we want to put our shadows in a direction that will be flattering, which is typically down. That's going to create, under the cheekbones. It's going to create shadow there under the neck, which will kind of make the face look its best, typically. So no Rembrandt light for this one. I mean, Rembrandt was not a beauty photographer. So, or photographer at all. All right, so I'm going to move this light. This is going to be my fill light. So we're going to start off. Oh, should I do the fill light first? Should we do it backwards? No, we're not going to do it backwards. Let's do it backwards.
Pick a path and just.
No, we're going to do it. We're going to do it backwards. We're going backwards, guys. I think it might actually make more sense to do it backwards. Okay, so remember I said that the black is like the blackest of our shadows. But we don't want our shadows to be black. We just want them to be underexposed by a stop or so, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a light source that is going to kind of not add any flavor or texture or anything like that. We're going to bring it in to help fill in the shadows, which we're going to create with our key light. Mark Wallace says do it backwards. There we go. Hey, Mark. What we're going to do is we're going to take a large source, right? When you're making, this is the thing, right? When we're lighting people, I've noticed that people are like, what's my biggest softbox? That's going to be my key light. But that's not often what you want to do when you want to shape the face. A smaller light source will help shape. A larger light source is going to be better for a fill because a fill you don't want to be intrusive. So I'm going to use this 4 foot by 4 foot silk from Shimira. This is half cloth, which doesn't mean anything unless you have a full cloth. It's half as clothy as a full cloth. No, that's basically how diffused it is. Remember, size of the source deals with hardness, softness, but there's also diffusion. Diffusion has to do with your highlights. So I want it to be diffuse, but not too diffuse. So this is a half silk. Typically, soft boxes, the interior baffle of a soft box is often a half silk. So if you want to get a feeling for what that is. So I'm just going to put it directly behind me. This is going to create a really flat light coming forward that's just going to be our fill light. It'll look a lot like if you took a ring light and sat at your table, at your desk. I'm going to use all cameras such that
How far back do you go? Oh, right here. Now you're like in the other room.
exactly. Camera. This guy? No, but I can turn it. Oh, that one you mean?
No, that.
No, I can turn it though.
Wider.
Is it better?
No,
Is it,
don't worry about it.
you can't see the light. Well, I'll show you. The light is right there.
Right. Oh, you already did it.
Yeah, I did it. Okay. I did it. There's just a delay. All right. So this light is pointed at here. We want to fill. All right, so I have my remote. It is going to be, I'm going to turn off the A light, which is the light I'm not using yet. The one with the softbox on.
The sound cuts out when I go to the overhead.
Oh, is that just because you have the sound set on?
Audio follows video.
Audio, okay.
That's my fault. So
Yeah, no problem. Okay, that's okay. I'll repeat myself. Sorry guys, a little technical glitch. All the internet went out in New York at once. So basically, this light is far enough back so that it covers the entire silk with the light. If I put it right up against the silk, move in. Oh, okay. If I put the light right up against the silk, it won't cover the whole thing, which will make it a smaller light source effectively, right? So I want to fill the whole thing. I'm going to put it on. And we can see, I'm more than covering it. You can see some light's bouncing off the floor. Some light is bouncing off the ceiling. So much light. So for all the people that look at the flat front of these lights and think they don't spread very far, they do. All right, back to this. So I only have the B light on. I'm in TTL, which is through the lens metering. And I'm just going to get a baseline shot. This is not going to be a correct exposure because this is my fill light, right? So I don't want it to be completely exposed, but I just want to get it set up to where I can mess with it. Am I using a light meter? Well, technically I'm using the light meter that's in my camera. There she is. She looks shocked. She's like, wow, I took a picture.
Well, there's your mugshot.
Right. So your camera has a light meter in it, right? If you're using the camera in ambient light, you probably use it all the time. And what TTL does is it works with the meter in your camera and the little box on top, the little remote on top, and the light, and it does all this math together. It's like a little baby photo assistant running out there, checking it, running back, and we get what is effectively a proper exposure. Now, we can see that light is very flat, right? But it is not flattering. That's right, I'm here every Tuesday. All right, so this is the direction of the light. So I shot the shot so you can see it's not going to create a lot of shadow. This is our fill light. This is just going to come in. It's called on-axis fill. You can also do it by putting a flash on top of your camera or something. It would be smaller. I like a bigger fill light for this type of work, so I'm not going to do that. But it's just flat. Now we know that we like I know that I like my fill light to be about 2 stops under. So I'm just going to simply under the main exposure. I'm going to simply switch the remote to manual, and I'm going to drop the power of this light by 2 stops. Okay, I'm going to leave it in manual. I'll do another shot. I'll show you guys. It'll be underexposed. There we go. All right, that's going to be my baseline for my shadows. Now I'm going to turn the B light off. I'm going to turn my A light on, and I'm going to go back to TTL because I need to get an exposure for that one. Because again, that's my light meter. So what I started off saying before about Rembrandt is Rembrandt was not a fashion photographer or a beauty photographer. No. So we're not going to use Rembrandt light. What we're going to use instead is butterfly lighting because that's what I like. Now, normally I get myself in this position and then I realize I need a sandbag, but I thought of it ahead of time, so I'm going to get the sandbag first. See that? Every once in a while I pay attention to what I'm doing. All right, so we got a sandbag. You always want to put the sandbag on the big leg of the C-stand. You always want the big leg, the weight of your light to be over the big leg. And we want to make sure the sandbag is not touching the ground. So you can see it waving, so it's not, so we know it's going to be secure. Yeah. You can watch a very good video about this on Seth's channel.
Safety.
Seth.com.
Oh, what?
Oh, it's not Seth.com?
Not responsible for what that takes them to.
That's true. Don't go to Seth.com. We have no idea what's on that channel. Actually, that would probably be a good channel to have. All right, so I've got the light boomed out. I'm going to move it kind of into the center. I'm going to tip it down. I'm going to turn it on, which is something we often forget to do. And by we, I mean me. And we're going to bring it up. Again, I'm not that worried about the background. But what I can do now is I can create different shapes of the face based on the angle of my light and how close it is to her. If I put it a really steep angle and put it real close, it's going to throw like shadows deep in the eyes. That's not really what we're going for. We want it kind of in front, but again, we want it high enough to create some shadows. It is going to throw a little light in the background, but I think we should be good. And usually when you're dealing with lights, because people often ask how close do you put the light? When you're trying to get soft light, which we are in this case, we want to put the light as close to the subject as we can without it being in the shot, usually, and make sure you have enough coverage, obviously. So it's right above my camera lens, so I don't see it in the shot, thankfully. I'm in TTL. This light in the back is turned off, and we'll do a test shot. We'll see what we get. All right, not bad. So now we can see, well, I'm gonna mess with the exposure a little bit there, but we can see the difference here, right?
Yeah.
A little scared.
Right.
Just like, what's that? Yeah, we can see the difference in the jawline. You know, we're using light to make her not be creeped out. Well, we can see everything. The contrast is there, the punch is there. We see nice shadow under the nose. And there we go, right? That's real simple. But the shadow's a bit dark. Now, actually, I think the exposure's a little bit hot, so I'll deal with that first. It's a touch hot. I'm just going to switch to manual at this point. And I'm going to dial it down 2/10. You might be saying, why 2/10? I figure why waste the pixels on 1/10, right? So we'll do 2/10. Yeah, there we go. That looks like a pretty decent exposure to me. And what that actually means is that it's going to probably be a little bit bright. Why? Because I'm adding another light. Remember, I got my fill light. So now let's bring these shadows up to where we want them to be. My first thought, remember earlier, is I set my fill light at 2 stops under exposure. So this should be 2 stops under, and we'll see the shadow's gonna be 2 stops under, I should say. We'll take that shot. All right, that's not terrible. It's almost like I've done this before. And we can see now how it's cleaning it up, right? She still has that nice shape to her face. You still have that nice shadow, but now we don't have the darkness that was there before, right? And we can set I probably shouldn't have got it so easy. It's not that easy. Hold on, let me screw it. No, you can set it wherever you want. So that's 2 stops under. If I want my shadows to be a little bit darker, I mean, if I go 3 stops, it's probably gonna look like nothing, but let's just go 1 more stop dark. Again, I'm just turning the light down at this point. I'm in manual. Well, actually, I kind of like that. I like a little bit of shadow. So 3 stops under is actually kind of nice. So, right, nice and simple.
Is there a lot of difference between the softbox and using a silver beauty dish? Can you see a lot of difference?
Okay, so what about different types of sources? Like, what about a beauty dish? What about, you know, an umbrella, right? So beauty dishes tend to be a little bit more punchier, especially silver ones, which is what being asked about. And when I say punchier, I'm talking about the highlights. Our highlights are going to punch more. Remember, a softbox is diffused because by its nature, it has diffusion on it, right? So you're shooting through diffusion, a softbox is going to be diffused. So you're going to get a little cleaner on the skin, a little, if you don't get as much punch. Now, because this is more of like a beauty portrait, and we don't have anything specifically with the makeup, I like that. If we're doing something with the makeup where we have like nice punchy colors and we want contrast, we want those whites to really pop and to have that shine, then I'm gonna go for something more silver, like a beauty dish. Umbrellas are also really good for kind of the opposite reason. Usually an umbrella is gonna throw the light everywhere, so we're gonna have a little bit more kind of a flatter look. Not always, but it tends to have a little bit of a flatter look, which is nice, especially with the bounce umbrella. A shoot-through umbrella is similar to a softbox, but with less kind of edge control.
Do you want to grab a beauty dish?
Yeah, we could grab a beauty dish and try it. I guess we can do more than one.
What? More than one shot, Dan?
Well, you know.
Are you really going to earn a check today?
Oh my God, I guess I have to.
Hold, please. You know they can hear you. Keep talking while you're in
Oh, really? Okay. So I'm going into the vault, and I happen to have the famous or infamous beauty dish that we've had forever. And not only is this a beauty dish so we can demonstrate that, it also has a grid on it. So for people who don't know what a beauty dish is, a beauty dish is basically a salad bowl. No, it's got a very specific shape. Now, a lot of times people will ask, 'cause I'm sure somebody's typing it right now in the chat, what about one of those portable beauty dishes that fold down? They don't look the same, because if we look at a beauty dish, if we look at the shape of it, you can see how it's designed, right? It's got this salad bowl shape, but then the bottom's flat. These things are going to make a difference in how the light comes out of it. It's going to feel different. Does that mean the portable ones aren't good? No, of course not. They are good, but they're not the same. So if you want it to look exactly like a beauty dish, you got to get a beauty dish. There are white beauty dishes as well, which are a little bit flatter. In other words, it's not as punchy. But if I'm going beauty dish, I like punch, so I'm going for it. Also, Seth has a really nice beauty dish for the Speedotron that has like the honeycomb here, right?
It's
Or transparent. So you can get all kinds of cool stuff. So, oh, by the way, I'll also say, because I'm sure again somebody's typing in the chat, that again the ProPhoto lights are flat in the front, so you're not really filling the beauty dish. It is true it's not exactly the same as having a dome sticking out, but it's pretty close. I think for most people it's not going to be a problem. Unless you're already used to seeing it the other way, I don't even think you would notice the difference. All right, so I'll put it on the ground.
why is that density? I don't know.
My gear gets used. Not that I got it used, but it gets used. All right, so that was a Shimera extra small. The shallow one? No, just a.
They're asking for suggestions of DIY diffusers, like the panel, like a real bed sheet.
So yeah, as far as the panel DIY, you could use some kind of a bed sheet. What I would say is that if you're going to use any kind of DIY diffusion, you'll need to take into consideration that the color, it'll probably change the color of the light. Right? The reason why we use professional, right, stuff is because this is actually made by Shimera. The same cloth that's in that is in this, so when I set my white balance, which I almost forgot to do, it'll match, right? That's why I don't often have to do a custom white balance, because I have lights that are consistent, I have equipment that's consistent. If you are going to do it yourself, to be honest, I probably would buy the fabric. It's not that expensive, and then I would DIY the frame, right? The frame is going to be the most expensive part. I think the frame is twice as much as the fabric.
Patty's asking, well, when are you going to use the digital target?
I will use the digital target, actually, right now. Thank you, Patty. Okay. So, of course, I did this backwards for the beauty dish because I wasn't planning on using it. When using the beauty dish, you don't want to put the beauty dish on the side with the handle, because then it gets in the way, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
Will you just do it from the other number?
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Come on, buddy.
I know, but that's,
What is
I know, but
Who are you?
I'm old and weak.
Daniel Norton, do you remember who you are? Sir, are you lost? Does someone know where you are? Does someone know where you are?
All right, we'll go no grid first. See, I just ignore him. That's how you do it. I gotta, man, I'll bring it up now because I'm about to throw some shade. You ready? I watched this video about like a bunch of shots you get with a beauty dish. I swear the guy did with a grid and without a grid and called it two different shots, which is true. But then he put a diffuser on and that's a third shot. It's now you're really pushing it. So, all right.
Say a name. Tough guy.
I can't remember. It was so long ago. I guess I should watch more videos so I could throw some more shade.
I can't remember.
It was so long ago. All right, so I'm going to turn off the B light again. Somebody's going to find that video now and call it out. I don't feel bad. It's on the YouTube. Okay. It was on MySpace. It was MySpace video. All right, so I'm back in TTL. I just have the beauty dish on right now. This is going to be punchy. Yeah, there we go. Oh, interesting. Also, we're getting a bit more shadow on the wall. Well, we're getting more kind of light, to be honest with you. It's not that we're getting more shadow, we're getting more light.
Is that with the fill, though?
What's that?
Is that with the fill?
No fill.
So that's probably why I got the shadow.
Yeah, of course. But I wanted to show it raw first so we could see the difference. All right, so the beauty dish is punchier, right? If we look at the brights, right, we're getting more brights. Obviously, the shape is a little bit different as well of the light that's falling on our face because it's round versus rectangular. Let's turn our fill light back on. That shouldn't be any different. I'm in manual, of course. Again, 3 stops under. Oh yeah, see, it's still getting a little bit of Because what's happening with the beauty dish is the center of the beauty dish is a little bit darker because, again, because we don't have a dome in here, this is the difference you're seeing. But the light that's falling on her face is not really affected. So that's the beauty dish versus the softbox. You can see the difference in the softbox. She's like, oh yeah, here's a softbox. With the beauty dish, she's like, work it. So yeah, so also notice too that because this is actually really, look, something good happened. Your highlights, I say this a lot, but now I can show it. The highlights are a reflection of your source. So if we look at her hair, for instance, we can see that with the beauty dish, we've got a bit less here and stuff because the source is smaller and it's only seeing the edge of it. With the softbox, our hair, we're seeing more of the softbox. That's why we're getting more of this like real consistent reflection of essentially white, right? Because the front of the softbox, the silk is white, where here it's silver, so we can actually see that the highlights are almost silvery. See that? So record that, hit that, how do you do what's called in Twitch? Snap that,
Whoa.
clip that.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
There's a question if this will be up after the stream.
This will be up on the stream?
They're just asking if this will be available.
Oh yeah, this stays on YouTube forever. So anything I screw up, Seth will point out to me for the rest of my life.
We have a mixtape of all this.
Yes. Yes, there is a mixtape of this. All right, so I'm going to put the grid on.
No, it'd be too long.
No. Yes, these things stay up on Adorama TV here on YouTube.
There's a whole playlist. They can do.
Yeah, there is actually a playlist called OnSet Live with Daniel Norton, as opposed to just OnSet with Daniel Norton. All right.
I have a video game.
No, I'm getting sent links.
He's playing a video game. All right, I'm not going to change my exposure. I just put the grid on. It's going to eat some light. I just want to show you how much light a grid eats, because I feel like it. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that eats a lot of light, right? Grids eat light. Grids also add a little bit of contrast. So let's now see what it looks like with the grid. Again, I'm going to, whenever you're adding something new, especially when you're teaching a class on YouTube, you should always turn off your fill light. Because remember, we know what the fill light, where the fill light's at. So we can just kill that so we can really see the changes we're making. Turning off my fill light, so now it's just the beauty dish with the grid. I know, Patty, I didn't use the thing. I'm staring at it. And we're going to take a TTL shot. There we go. Now, that's the grid, right? The grid's mysterious, right? The grid's, I know what's happening. Right now, everybody's on Adorama buying beauty dishes with the grids right now. Or you're looking at the price and going, oh, okay.
The grid obviously makes Netflix thumbnails.
Yes. The grid makes Netflix thumbnails. I like that. All right. Now, I'm about to use the color target, but you know what? I'd be doing it wrong if I did it right now, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yes, because you don't want to do your white balance target until you have all your lights in place. And I have my fill light turned off. So let's turn the fill light back on. This is why I haven't done it yet. We got to get everything in place. Okay, all right, now we've got the fill light. We have the contrast from the grid. We can see she's a little sassy. A little sassy. It's a sassy photo. And now we're going to have our subject hold it. You want to have them hold it in the same light they're in, right? Same exposure, everything else. So they're going to put it right in front of their face. If they don't want to put it so close to their face, they can hold it and go like this.
How much light would you say the grid cuts out like a stop?
The grid stops out. The grid cuts like a stop-ish of light, I would say, typically in a beauty dish.
Depends on the angle of it.
Yeah, it depends on the angle, exactly. All right. Okay, so now we've shot our color target. So once you make your image, and by the way, you don't have to do it at the beginning. That's one of the things that people often think. They're like, oh man, I gotta do it at the beginning. If you forget to do it at the beginning, just make sure you do it at the end when all your light's in place, because you can always go back and apply those settings. But we're gonna do it at the beginning because Patty reminded me. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go over and we're gonna hit the little dropper, eyedropper here. We're gonna click on the white or possibly the gray. I'm not gonna click on the dark area. You can do that, but in this case, because the light's so contrasty, I think it's too dark. You wanna click on the part that's the best exposure. And somewhere in the gray looks pretty good to me. I clicked on it, now we look decent. Then I'm gonna come over here, and I already have my, that's right. I already have this set so that Next capture setting, right here, I'm going to open it up for you guys. Oh, hold on. Nope, that's camera settings. New capture, next capture, here it is. Next capture setting, adjustments, copy from last for other. Okay, see where my mouse is down there? So whenever you make an adjustment, like if I was to adjust the color like I just did, every exposure from this point on is going to apply that. So keep that in mind when you do this, because sometimes we forget. Okay, so we've got that set now, so if I take another exposure, we know the exposure should be correct power-wise. Actually, that's okay. We're going to see what happens here because I kind of goofed up a little bit. Oh, yeah, it's warmer. Haha, as predicted. It's warmer. It's also also out of focus. Oh, no, it's not. It just took a second for it to load in. There we go. So we can see it's warmer, but also my exposure is screwed up because Daniel screwed up. I left it in TTL when I shot the tutorial. So let's actually do that again. We'll just cut that part out of the edit. All right, so we're in TTL. I'm going to turn off the A light. It's always good to do things twice. So I'm going to turn off the beauty dish and just turn on the fill light. I'm also going to go over here to my color target and I'm just going to manually adjust it to.
What size is that beauty dish? 22?
The beauty dish is 22 inches. Let's see. I'm going to bring this back to 5. Oh, it's actually set right. Okay. So it's actually in the right spot right now. So.
How does the beauty dish size impact the amount of light or just how much area it covers?
So the beauty dish size, just like anything else, is going to affect it because the size of your light source is going to be how hard or soft it is relative to your subject. So a 22-inch beauty dish is bigger than, let's say, somebody's head, but not bigger than their entire torso. So it's a hard light if you want to shoot a 3/4 shot, but a relatively soft light for a close-up shot. There are different size beauty dishes. I mean, my personal take on that is that I don't like the bigger ones, but that's just me. Why? Because I like beauty dishes for what they're meant for, which is close-up shots. If you get the bigger ones, you can back up and do 3/4 shots, but that's not what I usually use a beauty dish for. I don't particularly care for the contrast of it in that sense, but again, that's more of a personal thing. So I guess if you want to do 3/4 shots with a beauty dish and still have it look soft, the trick would be, okay, that's good. The trick would be to get a bigger one, just like anything really. All right, so I'm turning this down. I'm just redoing what I did before. I did a TTL exposure of just the fill light. I'm turning it down 2 stops. Although I think in the end we liked it down 3 stops, right? So I'm gonna turn it down 3 stops. What's that?
It's actually kind of nice light.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just flat. It's flat light. This is a good light if you were shooting like groups, so you need to be fast or just it's not bad. It's just not what we're doing.
Takes on texture a lot.
Yeah. It's a good fill. You could use a softbox for this. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do. All right, so I'm back in TTL. I'm going to do a shot. Again, we're establishing the beauty dish exposure. Okay, good. And then I'm going to come back over here, put it in manual, turn the B light back on, and get an exposure with both lights. That should give us, yeah. Okay, so now we're filled in. Everything looks good. And now I'm going to screw it up by, no, I'm just kidding. Actually, that's what the warm, what is going on with the images are coming in like weird. I don't know if my computer is like, hold on, let me just switch this up. Have you tried turning it off and then back on again? Remember I was having an issue earlier where it was like acting all goofy with the computer. It feels like the images are coming in like slowly and weirdly. Let's see if that helped it. There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we've got everything where we want it. It's a little bit warm, again, because of the white balance. If we come back in here and we put it back to where it was, because remember, custom white balance, that's my starting point, right? Which is a little bit cool, which is where I generally keep it. When we did the custom white balance with the thing, which I'll do it again now. So we've got this. She's going to, I'm still in manual, right? Yeah, I'm in manual. She's going to hold it. Sorry if that was confusing, guys. I had to redo it. Okay. So we've shot our card now. I'm going to come over. I'm going to get my dropper. I'm going to touch it on the gray part or possibly the white part. This is why exposure is important, because we don't want, if the white was blown out, we definitely couldn't use it, right? In fact, even the black probably works here. We can see that, and also because it's not a perfectly brand new one, we can actually see that depending on where I touch it, it looks a little bit different. So I'm kind of clicking around in different spots until I find where it looks neutral to me. And then, like I said before, we've got everything locked in, so this color should stay now. Provided I have everything set. Yep, I'm on manual. We have the color set up. And that should give us, there we go. It's a little bit warmer than I normally would do, but very nice, right? Maybe you like that better. She likes to be warm, right? So we got a little bit of warmth in it. And again, once you do that, right, you can still adjust. Like that's proper. But we, you know, according to the thing, but we could come in here and just be like, well, you know what? It was at 5,000 before. This went to 5,900. Let's say if I wanted 5,500. We make an adjustment. That looks pretty good somewhere in the middle. And now it'll just keep that when I continue to shoot. Right, and we can, you know, get two shots that will just automatically adjust it. And it's so fast with the color that you're not really seeing the difference. But sometimes if the computer was acting slow like it was earlier, it takes a second to come in. Now that we've done this, again, with the Beauty Dish, I actually think I might want a little more fill. So my B light is at basically 3 stops under exposure. So I'm going to actually bring it up 1 stop. So now it'll be 2 stops under exposure with the Beauty Dish with grid. Beauty Dish with grid, I should say, is 2 stops under exposure. Because the Beauty Dish with grid is adding more contrast by its nature. So more contrast, more shadow, so I want to fill in more to cover up those shadows. And then we're basically good. So yeah. So this all looks good. I'm looking for something I would, if you didn't, like, let's say there's like a little, is that like a little tiny blemish that this is exactly what Cadence wants to do, which is 11 thing. And you want to deal with that. All you'd have to do is, let's see if I can do it quickly. Oh, okay. So the way that you choose with this is typically I'm going to go, I mean, just as a general basis, unless you know your exposure is dead on, go with the gray. Because the white or the black, if they're over or underexposed, will throw off your color balance. Otherwise, I usually click on all 3 and whichever one I think looks best to my eye. If you're really trying to get exact color for like actual commercial work, get an X-Rite color chip chart. That's what you want to get. This is great. It's inexpensive. It's good to get custom white balance for portraits and stuff. I would not recommend this myself for commercial stuff. The reason why is because the X-Rite one is all calibrated, and the retouchers and the color separators are going to have the X-Rite target. They're going to know exactly what chip you clicked on. So you want to use that a chip card if you're actually doing like commercial work, like fashion, let's say. But for portraits, this is just great. Whatever one looks the best is the one I always click on. Even X-Rite has different grays so you can click on, but you can tell the outsourced people which one you clicked on is my point. And they know what it's supposed to be. All right, so I'm looking for, oh, here it is. Okay, so all we have to do is click here. They made it so easy now. So if we just do, let's say we want to remove that little tiny thing right there. We're going to go here. And it should automatically create a layer, right, with the new version of Capture One. Oh, is that how you do it? Yeah, you just do that, and then it's basically gone. I mean, you know, clearly that was not perfect because well, it's not terrible. I would do it in Photoshop, to be honest, or I would do it smaller.
You just move the other side of this thing, the circle on the
On a different spot, yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah. So let me just make this smaller too. I'm kind of trying to do it fast, and it's not going to look good.
You just hit the O key to a spot.
The O key? Yeah. Oh, that's what I want to do. So once you've got your spot, you can move it around to whichever one looks the best, like that's the saying. I'm clearly not a retoucher. Maybe that's why I don't retouch. But basically, it was the OK do? That just brings it on? Oh, that's cool. There we go. But that's how you would do it. I mean, I would do it in Photoshop because I'm just more comfortable with Photoshop, but you can do it within Capture One. But that's like the thing you might take out, but actually, to be honest with you, I wouldn't take that out. I would let, for a portrait, I wouldn't take it out. For a beauty shot, like cosmetic shot, I would, a little tiny, you know. Cadence wants to look the way Cadence looks. She doesn't. Yeah, she does not want to be frequency separated. Do not frequency separate people without their permission. Any other questions? We're flying. Should we use something else? What if we use a Magnum Reflector?
Oh, switch outfits.
Let's switch it up. Oh, you want to switch outfits? Oh, she's changing. Magnum? What do you think?
You want to go super hard?
Yeah, let's go. Actually, let's do a single. Yeah, okay. All right, guys, this is it. Early, we're gonna get crazy. I'm leaving. I'm coming into the. Oh. All right, so I've got the Magnum Reflector now.
That's an old Magnum, too.
It's the old Magnum. This is the Magnum that I like. There is a Magnum 4 OCF. It's not my favorite. I like this one. I have both, but I like this one better. It's really a punchy reflector. It's going to add a lot of contrast, and it's silver, so we're going to get a lot of highlight popping, but then it's also relatively small, so we're going to get a lot of shadow. So this is really, we're going extreme with this.
So then the question is it better to shoot the beauty dish direct on or feather it off?
With a beauty dish, you want to aim it straight on because beauty dish, well, especially with the grid, because the nature of the beauty dish is already that it's going to be a bit of a kind of a feather. So you don't usually want to feather a beauty dish. At least not for a beauty shot. I mean, obviously anything can be used in different ways, but almost always a small directional light source, feathering it is not going to make it look the way that the light source is meant to look. And I'm assuming you're using the beauty dish to look like a beauty dish. If it was like the only thing you had and you needed to make it look different, then feathering it is fun.
I think people think beauty dishes are universal, like you just use it all the time.
No, a beauty dish is basic. To me, a beauty dish is a very specific piece of gear. Oh, I think I put this thing to sleep because I touched it. Oh, no, I hit the menu. Okay. All right, so this is the Magnum Reflector. This is going to be very, very, very contrasty.
Should I be afraid?
You should be a little afraid. All right.
You need your face right.
So I'm gonna once again doing something new. I'm gonna turn off the fill light. I'm gonna just do the main light. I'm gonna put it in TTL. We get some color going on, and it's gonna be like pop. All right, there we go. Contrasty, right? Whoosh. Yeah, you get that whoosh. Yep. Now, there's a few things we could do. Since we're already set up, actually, right, since we're already set up here with this fill light, let's just see what it looks like. But I'm going to change it because, you know, that's how I like to roll. Get a little eyebrow raise. There we go, right? I'll get a little more fill.
Being dramatic.
Can you use a softbox instead of a diffuser panel?
You could use a softbox instead of a diffuser panel, but it'll probably be smaller and thus will not be as soft or have as much coverage. I feel like this is not. Oh, I know why. Okay, so remember, there's a lot of products out there on the market. I don't know the rest that say they give you more light. A Magnum Reflector actually does give you like about 2 stops more light. So what happened was I'm using the fill light. Remember I said it manually before. So it's my exposure actually changed. So I got to actually, proportionately, I can't leave them set the same because the Magnum's putting out more light. So if that makes sense. So I'm going to raise this one 2 stops as a baseline, and that should give us a bit more fill in with the shadows. Wow, that Magnum is crazy.
Maybe I'm reflecting it.
You are super reflective also.
You have like 1,000 little mirrors in that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to let's just start from scratch here. I'm going to go here. All right, so I'm going to bring the fill light in. I'm just going to leave it there. Then I'm going to turn the Magnum back on. And we should get...
So when doing this, doesn't matter what angle the
There we go.
camera's at, slightly above or below, what do you think?
So does the camera angle for this kind of stuff really matter? I mean, yeah, you typically want to keep the camera, in my opinion, on level with the subject unless you have a reason not to. I think that if you're shooting up at somebody or down at somebody is going to create a certain look, You know, sometimes they need to have their light in a certain direction, which means that, like, let's say we didn't have a fill light and we were using the Magnum, we had all that shadow, but we wanted the face to have less shadow. We could have her raise her chin, which would then effectively make us below her as far as the way it would look. In fact, we can just do that. But before we do that, I got the balance better. All right, so I filled in a lot more with the fill light because the Magnum is so punchy, and you can see how that's almost like I mean, so we have that versus, you know, the Magnum by itself. We can take it to those extremes very easily, right? But before we do that, I'm gonna go down to my B light. I'm gonna drop it a stop and a half so I can get this thing where I want it. So we get the first shot finished. There we go. So we've got some shadow. We have some shape with the Magnum. It's punchier. It definitely works for people that have good skin like Cadence has, and it really adds more contrast. But let's say that we didn't have a fill light and we wanted to do this. If she keeps her face straight on like she did right now, then we're gonna get shadow, right? If she brings her chin up so it's parallel to the reflector, you're gonna be basically shooting up at her. This is the reason why we see this a lot in beauty shots, because they're trying to get the light to be, you see how this has, like, you can actually see under her eyes a little bit and stuff like that. You see shadow, it's like, it's adding, right, some density, whereas this completely, like, kind of cleans it up because the light's flat to her face. So that's why you sometimes see that in beauty shots. They'll be like looking up. You know, it's the up the nose shot, and that's because you got the light. You see it a lot with beauty dishes. If you're not going to use it, if you're not going to use a fill light or not too much of a fill light, then sometimes that's a good solution. But typically, I think we want to be level with the person in a portrait. I do, anyways. But you know,
Try with a bounce.
we could try with a bounce. With the Magnum, we can bounce in because we have all that spread. With the beauty dish, with the grid, we weren't able to bounce it. We didn't try that, but yeah. We do have this here. Handcrafted in Brooklyn,
Famously handcrafted.
silver in Manhattan. So it's actually cheaper to manufacture in Manhattan than it is in Brooklyn these days, you know. So we'll bring it out like that. Let's see, maybe a little closer. Yeah, I'm gonna turn off the fill light. Oh, it's already off. Okay, and we'll do a little bouncy bounce. Is that hitting the bounce there? It's hard to see. No, not really. It's got to be much closer. I think because she's so close to the light, this is not really going to. Let me turn the modeling light on. Sometimes it's tricky to see it, so let's put the modeling light on.
Wow.
Whoosh.
Wow.
And we can.
Who needs redness?
There we go.
Not me.
Nobody cares about the redness. Okay. All right, we'll try that. We'll see if we get anything. I can see it in the shot. I just want to see if we're getting any bounce in it. Yeah, I mean, it's not bouncing much. The light's so intense with the fall off that, I mean, in order to get a good bounce in there, you'd have to change the position of the light, but I kind of like where the light is, so
Try the silver really quick.
All right, let's try the silver.
The silver's got all that weird spray paint.
All right, let's try the silver. We're turning the modeling light on.
Get in there, like, right out front of you.
Yeah, okay. And, okay, good. All right, here we go. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So now we got the silver. And the only issue with the bounce like this, like we can totally see it's filling in under her chin, but the issue that I have is that I don't think it fills in enough under her nose or into her eyes, which is where I really want it, right? So if I was going to try to bounce with this, with the Magnum, I think I'd back it up a little bit so I could get a little more coverage, maybe even tip it a bit, and that would work. But I don't know. Since I have an active fill light right here, then I'm just going to use it because, you know.
So they're asking about feathering the Magnum off.
Wow, people are really into feathering
No,
today.
it's like this. Someone used the word once and it turned into
Right, did somebody get feathered?
I
Or
heard
like,
it.
what is this feathering?
What is this feathering you speak of? Okay, so feathering the light is when, instead of pointing the light right at somebody, you use the edge of it. I mean, for beauty, you know, it's not really what we want. For beauty, we want a directional light because we're trying to shape the face. Feathering is generally going to be used when you're trying to kind of soften the edge of a light for that. So it's more of a portrait technique. We'll try to feather the light, though. Why not? For you guys, I'll feather the light. I'm not even sure where I'd feather it to. Like, I mean, down, I guess, or up. I guess down would be the way to feather.
You set it up to not.
Yeah, I feather it up so I don't need to feather it, basically. But let's say we're in a feathering mood. I'll back it up a little bit. I will try to feather the light just to make it, for some reason, be a thing. All right, so it's pointed right at her now. Let's say I didn't want to take the background so much. I guess that might be one reason why I'd feather it down. So then I'm going to tip the light down. So I'm basically going to end up using the edge of the light on her. Yeah, because I'm basically, what's going to end up happening is I'm lighting her torso. And essentially the edge of the light is what's hitting her face. All right, I take no responsibility for this. Yeah. Oh yeah, perfect. That's exactly the expression I have. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, you don't.
After school program. What is this?
Yeah, this is not the light that you. It's just not a feathery light.
But now you can bounce the hell out of it, honestly.
Yeah, but now we can bounce it. So.
I want to do it with the silver.
Yeah. Now we can bounce, and maybe even work the chin up a smidge. There we go. Now we should get a bounce that's decent. Yeah. So if you really wanted that contrast, again, it's not how I would do it. I get what you're saying, and it's good. The reason why I do these, by the way, sometimes I don't know if some people watch this, like, why would you do it?
Show the shape.
Oh yeah. So this is actually still just with the reflector. So I'm showing equal to equal, right? By moving the light, right, we can see how it changes the shape of it. It just doesn't work for what we're doing here. And to be honest, the best one, is when the light's lower and of course I'll show you this one too because hey, that's just the way I am. And this is with the light up. You can see how that changes it there. Again, you're limited, and sometimes you'll see that I'll do that if I'm doing these beauty demos. I will sometimes set it up so that they have to have their chin up because that's the light I'm doing. But in an ideal world, we want to have, flexibility to be able to, I guess like this would be where we have the ability to move the face around, shape the face, but then still have nice light on it. Like that's our goal, right? So when we're thinking about our lighting, you might hear beauty dish, Magnum, feather, this and that, but the reality is you want to use the thing that's going to give you the look that's appropriate for what you're doing. I do these things during the demo when somebody asks because I want to show you. If I just said that's terrible, you'd have to believe me or not, but you can see that feather in the light doesn't really work. Now, if we were shooting like some kind of dramatic portrait from the side where the light was kind of coming off, you might feather the light. But in a butterfly fashion with this kind of lighting, it just doesn't make sense to feather it. Right?
Look at you.
Look at me feathering. You know what we can do though? What we can do though, just because I feel like it, is let's use the diffuser as our key by moving it forward.
You're mad.
I know, it's crazy.
You're mad.
I'm gonna do it. Okay. So we're gonna use some of the things that, actually probably even leave clearly this is not going to work because it's blocking my camera. No, we can actually.
I was like, how does this work?
Yeah, no, we gotta move it. Got to turn it. Okay, all right. So we can take this guy and move it up like that to create kind of a frontal wall of light that still has direction. Because remember, it was fine from back there. It was like flat and boring, but at least it was, gentle, we'll say. Now we can actually take our light, put it at an angle that we like, a little bit of an angle to shape the face, and I'm just going to use the Magnum because that's what I got. I'm going to change this feathered angle because it didn't really work. Now when you're doing this kind of stuff, you kind of want to put the light close to the angle of the diffuser if you want it to be like softbox-ish. But I kind of want to let the light be a little more organic, so I'm kind of tilting a little bit less. It's just something you finesse. And we want to look at the light relative to her face, not relative to the silk, right? We're looking at how it's going to hit her and what kind of shadow it's going to make. Because even though it's going to hit the silk, that's still our source, right? That's still where we're getting our juice from, if you will. All right, and with the Magnum, it should have enough power to do this. So I'm in TTL, just flat. Let's see what it creates. All right, here we go. Now we've got, right, this one's off, right? I can see that it didn't do anything yet, it's off, okay. Just the light in the back is off. Single light, right? With direction, but also diffused and gentle, right? What we lose here, though, is the ability to, like, let's say, get the background darker or any kind of control like that. This is going to be a little bit flatter, and we can make it punchier if we want by lowering our light, because essentially we're going to make our light source smaller the closer the Magnum gets to it. So if we lower this, we still keep it kind of pointed in a general direction. I'll even put on the modeling light so you guys can see. You see, it's not covering the whole fabric, right?
Hang on.
Nope.
Hang on.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Nice. So we can see it's not covering the whole fabric. Thus, it's going to be a smaller light source. It's not going to get as much bounce around. I'll leave the modeling lamp for now. And let's see what we get. I get them in TTL. So we're getting the exposure from that. And now we've got a bit of a richer shadow, right? So essentially larger light source, more spread, smaller light source. You see those cheekbones, see how things start coming together. So angle and shadow is super important. And now we've got enough spread here that if we wanted to bust out the reflector, we should be able to get more of a gentle reflection.
gentle reflection.
Yeah. Even with the silver. Oh, the silver's probably going to be too much.
Silver is nice.
That silver's going to be too much, or do you think it's going to be glamorous?
Silver is nitrous.
Boom.
Ooh.
That is with the silver.
Well, that's clearly all the reflector. It has nothing to do with
Yep, it's all the reflector, handcrafted, artisanal reflectors made here in Manhattan by Seth.
Baby.
Chrome spray paint. Bam, right? Just like,
Look at the catch light. It's so beautiful.
right.
Catch light.
Yeah, we got some catch lights. So you can see how we kind of like worked our way towards this maneuver here, right? And remember, the other light's not doing anything. I'm single light going into this silk. It's punchy because it's got silver here, but I'm diffusing it a bit with kind of like the diffuser that would be in the middle of the softbox, not the heavy diffuser in the front of it. So we got some diffusion. But also, that's giving us our shape and it's allowing us to bounce it. But we're still keeping that butterfly look where it shapes the face, brings it in, and just kind of creates an overall pleasing.
Amazing.
It creates an overall pleasing appearance.
Pleasing.
Is a pleasing face.
You should meet my daughter. She's very pleasing.
All right, I'm gonna spend 5 minutes doing something that Seth doesn't want me to do.
No.
Just because he's got a red shirt on, I could do. I just want to add a little color. Right? See?
Okay.
A little color. Cadence is all in. All right, so I got a new toy I've been messing with. I don't know if it's. I'm just going to give it a shot.
Already disappointed.
It went so well last week.
I know. So I connected two of my RGB LED tubes together.
It'll work this time, maybe.
It'll work. Why not? Listen, there's no better time to do this than live in front of a.
Drag my shutter.
All right, so I'm going to pick a color here. First, I'm going to.
There's nothing that says sleek beauty commercial like.
Hey.
taking Some RGB.
Listen, I heard that all the kids are doing this. Oh, look, they're even shipped to the same color already. Okay, so I'm going to bring these guys up. You know, when I was a kid, back in the 80s, well, they're not the same color. 316, 316. Oh, the saturation is different. That's why. I'm like, hold on.
Good thing you were ready for it. You really look so prepared. Look at that.
All right, now,
Look at this guy.
I'm just going to screw this in.
Just ready to go. You saw that?
Hang on, guys, while I screw cord.
So ready. How perfect he is. Take out the pin and screw the pin. Oh my God. Damn.
I got it. We got it.
Nothing says pro like sit there and make a helicopter out of a pink light. Jeez.
This is not the first time I've done this. Or maybe it is. All right, so we're gonna. It's a little taller than I want it to be.
You dropped it's an elbow arm.
I know it is.
Drop the articulating arm.
Okay. All right.
Daniel Norton still got it, everybody.
We got this. We got this, people. Bear with me.
My man still got it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to put this behind you.
Photo magic happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. It's going to be, yeah. Just get as close to it as you can. You might have to like stand around it. Yeah. All right. This looks very sad. Thank you for bearing with me, people. This is very sad. This is very sad.
Watch it be like all diagonal now.
Do you want to use this or no?
Let's start without it. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn the flash off, and we're in the dark. And I'm just going to use my shutter speed, because remember, shutter speed affects your, will affect the ambient light without affecting the flash too much, or at all, really. And we're going to do that, and then I'm going to turn my flash back on. So I'm at a tenth of a second. Oh, that was interesting. Ooh. Oh yeah, we got a little glow down there. Just a little. It's not even though.
What did I just say that?
What, you said that it wouldn't be even? Well, I mean, I was
Well, just like when you set up the paper, I'm always like, well, that's where good Dan set that paper.
Wow.
My shoes are uneven. I can't help it.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna shoot without the flash because I just want.
Longer than the other.
I'm gonna shoot without the flash just to see what we get. All right. Oh yeah, that's pretty. That's electric. Boogie woogie woogie.
You're splashing too much.
Yeah, we're splashing. We should have done it without the. Yeah, should have done it with the beauty dish.
Beauty dish, actually.
Yep, that's what we're gonna have to do. You know that.
Shoot the grid, baby.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back to the beauty dish. Okay, so this is an awesome idea, of course. Even if Seth doesn't think so. But the problem is that the diffuser is making the light go everywhere. So we're gonna get rid of the diffuser. And I'm pretty sure, as Seth noted, that the beauty dish is gonna be the right tool here.
Oh, there's a tool here.
Yeah, the Magnum is fine, except for the fact that in order to get it in a place where there'd be no light on the background, because of our distance, we would end up having to put it at such an extreme angle that it would just be that kind of unflattering light. Remember when we kind of feathered it? So I'm going to use the beauty dish with the grid because the grid is going to help reduce the spread of the light. All right. So, see that? I managed to talk through the whole thing. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep, grid, beauty dish, cadence. I don't think I'm going to keep the light fully off the background, but I mean, I could if we.
Get it, girl. Live your truth.
All right, so
Stop making me laugh. This is going to be more blinking pictures, isn't
Yeah, it'll be more red. It'll match.
okay. All right, I'm in TTL. All right, not bad.
Hey, look at you.
Not bad.
Look at you.
Oh yeah, the 80s has returned. All right, so
Over here. Now for like the next 2 years when we see, it worked.
oh, double tap.
Getting a little happy over there? What are you doing?
Well, I shot too much stick. All right, so we can see that we got crispiness here. No blur, because I mean, you know, cadence is good at standing still. So it would be nice to have a little bit of fill.
A little bit of fill? Why don't you just bang this into the wall?
Yeah, but is that gonna?
Yeah, but dial it. Like dial it.
All right, we're gonna just do a tiny bit of fill. I don't think the reflector will do anything because we're using a grid. So
Reflector's not gonna
yeah, so we're gonna turn this to the wall,
You could also bounce off the floor.
which might actually be a better idea. But all right, I'm gonna take this. We're gonna go.
What you doing?
I'm doing math. All right, hold on.
Dark in here, you're off frame. And
Okay. Essentially, yeah, that works.
yeah.
I'm gonna set this at 4 because math,
Math. Because math.
because of math. Okay. It is very dark in here. Okay. Maybe 4 is not enough.
Is that fire?
I don't know. I hope so. I can tell by looking at it. Usually if you're unsure if something fired, you can sometimes see it in the eyes. I don't see it in the eyes, so it could be that it didn't fire. Huh. Oh, did that time. All right, there we go. Oh, so since it didn't show up in the eyes at all, I'm concerned that it's, oh no, there we go. Now the problem with this is going to be, ultimately, if we put too much fill in, All right, so that was 5, or 6 rather. So I went up 2 stops, so I'll go back down to 5. I overcompensated. All right, here we go. Good. Yeah, there we go. Nice. I don't know, I'm torn. I'm a little torn, because part of me likes it with the more shadow, actually, now that I see it.
Both shots, so you don't gotta be torn.
Yep, exactly.
Like we should.
We got both shots. So, what did we learn here? That I was right about the LED lights.
I didn't say it wasn't gonna work. You definitely had to change it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, right? When we're shooting this kind of stuff, what we want to do is consider the shape of the subject's face, right? To create kind of the expression of light that we want on it. So we want to, typically this light that you saw me use most of the time, which is butterfly light from the center, is going to be very flattering. It's going to bring the light down so it feel very normal, but then it's going to help cut the shadows in under the cheekbones. It's going to keep give a nice shadow under the chin, really separate for a good portrait. But we don't want to have too much shadow, because too much shadow can be distracting depending on the subject. And also a lot of shadow, remember, shadows where imperfection is going to show up. So we want to fill in those shadows with a light that's not going to, in and of itself, have like a direction that really affects our shot. So having it on axis, right, directly behind the camera, it just kind of comes in and fills in those shadows without kind of making a big deal, right? Like, you know how Seth's over here being really quiet and not making a big deal.
Well, it doesn't change the shape.
Yeah, it doesn't change the shape. So there we go.
There you go.
There we go. That's why he's actually here to give me the words. What are your words? This is the words.
Use the words, man.
So yeah. So that's what we want to do. We want to shape the face. We want to fill in. The fill is going to, the shadow helps shape, but the shadow also brings out texture. So it's this fine balance between the two. And then if you spent a few dollars and bought some RGB lights, you should just use them in every shot. And because that's, okay, you don't have to use them in every shot. But I like them. What's that?
Tell them to hit like.
Hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell.
Well, look at this guy.
And yeah, we're going to be back in December. I meant to look at the date.
No, yeah?
Yeah, there's one in December, the last one of the year, not on New Year's Eve or anything. It's going to be like a. It's not.
You said you wanted to mention Veterans Day.
Right. And I did say I wanted to mention Veterans Day, and then I forgot. Any veterans out there, thank you for your service. It's Veterans Day here in the U.S., and I guess veterans around the world too. So we'll sign off. I'm going to let you know the date, though, if I can find this. I actually have a calendar here, believe it or not. It might seem like I'm unorganized.
Yeah, just like those LED lights are ready to go.
There is live, 12/9. The 9th of December, which is just about a month from today. It'll be the last live stream that I'll be doing for the year.
Tell them about your other videos that just released.
And we just released a video today with Cadence, actually about shadows. Not today, Tuesday. So if you're new here, there is an OnSet live playlist if you want to come back and watch the shenanigans that we get into live. And then there's also an OnSet kind of the pre-recorded playlist, which are kind of more shorter videos. Check out Seth as well. He's got a playlist, what's it called? Live.
Oh, it's old. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's old, but it still has some cool stuff in there. Check out his stuff. He's got a lot of special effects funkiness. That Paris video.
Oh, thank you.
Check out the Paris video. This is Cadence. You can see her wherever you see fine cadences.
Wow. All right, you're out of here.
I don't know. I'm terrible at the dismount.